Hey guys, welcome to class. Today we're doing the solar plexus, okay? Which is also known as the power chakra. So I had each of you guys kind of think of a time when you were younger, either like family or maybe even a sibling, like really affected you, like your self-esteem, like put you down. So I'm gonna kind of go each of you guys and kind of give me an example of the situation, how it happened, how it made you feel. Okay? Anybody want to go first? Or I could do round table.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, there was a time when my big brother was out with my cousin outside my house, and he kind of picked on me. Just kind of was searching my pockets and stuff to see what I had. Made it like a joke. So that kind of hurt my self-esteem.
What was he implying?
That I was stealing.
Okay. And so were you like sad? Were you embarrassed? Were you like, think of those emotions that you were feeling at that time?
I was embarrassed.
Okay.
I was upset and embarrassed.
Both of those, yeah. And then like moving into this time, the present, did that sometimes trigger you? When someone's like, I'm missing something, you know what I mean? And then like they look at you, but not like intentionally, but then you kind of feel like, do you get like defensive now? Sometimes?
Yeah.
Because it reminds you of that time. Okay. Good. Good. Thank you for sharing. Next.
I'll go next.
Okay, girl, go.
And let me turn my camera back on. My kids are kind of being loud, but I was always a bigger girl, and my stepmom wasn't really nice about it. So I always had to eat different than everybody else, and I had to run a mile every day around the neighborhood until finally she gave me the choice to do cross country. But I mean, that was pretty degrading, and I mean, it must have affected me a lot more in the long run than I had anticipated it. Because I mean, I think it shows now in my life more as time goes on, because it traumatized me pretty good.
Yeah. And so like what kind of feelings come up when people like talk about weight or talk about like image or you know?
I think it's eating in general, like because it's kind of a little bit of everything. It's not really so much, I don't get really so insensitive about it now. It really traumatized me and made my self-esteem just horrible as a kid, since I was always kind of like singled out.
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself now eating more just because like you're like, well, I can do it now because I don't got that person kind of like?
Yeah, so I had an overeating problem really bad until just recently, actually, and I'm kind of getting it under control. But that's when I really realized it was an issue, is because I realized, dang, I don't think I would have had this problem otherwise.
Yes. No, good. Good. That's good, because you have to like figure out where does this come from, right? Where the stem from. And that's what this whole thing is about, is remembering, okay, where did this stem from? Let's start working on it. Good awareness. Right. Thank you. Jay.
Hola.
Hola.
Okay, so mine is, okay, when I was younger, I've always lived in like a house with like a big family, you know. And so when I'd like always stay in my room because I just liked being by myself more. And I would always like walk back and forth like from my room to the kitchen. And then every time I'd walk past, like, so my parents or my siblings or somebody would be like, "Oh, you're eating again?" And so then I would eat it like a lot. And so that definitely has affected me today, because not necessarily like, oh, I'm fat or anything, but it's just like that body dysmorphia, and like because I got like stretchier skin now because I used to be like chunkier when I was younger, and so it's definitely just like some stuff like that.
That you notice now, like where it stems from. So does that like trigger you, or do you kind of like still look at yourself and you feel like?
Yeah, there'll definitely be days where I just will look at myself and everything I put on, I just don't like it, or I won't eat some days because I'm like, oh, my weight's starting to get more again, and stuff like that.
Good.
It definitely like taking my shirt off with swimming and stuff like that. Definitely stuff like that.
You get like that self-conscious, huh? Yep. Good. So reason why, guys, I have asked you guys to do this is because the solar plexus is about our confidence. Okay, it's our powerhouse of all of our chakras. I mean, it connects. If this baby's off, it literally will trigger every other freaking chakra, all over. Okay, it's like an automatic. And it's one of those things where all of us are going to have to work on weekly, monthly. It's one of your regular ones that you always have to balance. Okay. With my personal experience, I can tell you that that's something that I've had to always work out. Now, think about this. If you have stomach issues, okay, heartburn, then that means your solar plex has been off for a very, very long time. Okay. I can tell you at a very young age, I always had stomach issues. Same thing. Like my mom was very like verbally abusive because I was thicker, I was chunkier. And it was always like, you're eating again, you're eating this. And I would just eat just because I was like pissed at her. So I would eat more. And it was like Twinkies, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And so my dad was very like, like loving, but my mom was just very, made sure that it was like, And so that really like affected me, like getting older, even though like, yeah, like you get older, you start kind of like your weight starts coming off, but it still was in my head, the whole freaking time. And so that's where your confidence. Now, if that's off, then like I had like a lot of stomach issues. I was like bloated. I was always sick. Any kind of allergy you can think of, like I probably had. My mom's like, it's just in your head. Now realizing that we carry those emotions and that's how we get sick. Okay. So by storing those emotions and not kind of communicating that something's bothering you or holding all that like that tension, all that trauma in, it affects our body. And which is why as adults, now we have issues either with like heartburn. We have issues like I'm allergic, like I'm celiac now, you know what I mean? Things like that, because like we've always been, and so it screws up our intestines. So think about that too, okay? A happy gut is a happy life. I mean, we've heard like all this stuff all over the freaking like social media. Your gut. Yeah, because we store our emotions there, okay? So we'll kind of get back to the structured outline of what this goes, and I'll ask more questions throughout this class, okay? But think of it this way. Your third chakra is your powerhouse. So it's your strength, okay? It's where we store our self-control. We can use these qualities to cooperate with something, or we can dominate. We can help others find other strengths, or we can try to weaken them. So balancing them. We can manipulate somebody, okay? Or we can try to be selfless and be of service to others. This is a really good area also, especially when we're all here being of service to others. Sometimes we can get abused, we can get manipulated because we're such givers. Why are we such givers? Because we know how it is to feel wrong, to feel belittled, right, or demeaned. And so we are so good to quickly try to save people because we don't want them to feel how we have felt, right? But sometimes like realize they have to feel that way too so they can grow, okay? Just like we did. Unfortunately, like we had to go through everything just so we can finally understand like something's off, something isn't right. And so we start working within our inner selves, okay? So your key phrases for this solar chakra is going to be ego, power, assertiveness, control, sense of identity, possession, and wealth. You'll notice that when you are lacking something that you think that you need, let's think that if we are, our stability comes from this too. So if we're lacking money, let's think stability is money, paying all of our bills, feeling healthy. Those maybe we define as stability. If any of those things are off, where do you think that we start feeling it? Stomach, right? It gets tense, it gets knotted. That's the first thing that goes. And for some of us that are more sensitive to energy, our pointer finger, that baby goes numb. That is your first, okay, right there. That kind of prickling feeling, like shit, something's off. Yeah, there, okay. Solar plexus is right above your navel, right there. That's where it's gonna start tightening right there, okay? Which is also connected to your esophagus, heartburn. Remember that, okay? Acid reflux all comes from there. Intestines, all of that, like you're constipated. Like think of those kind of things that all trigger the whole freaking like stomach, but also it affects how we think, our brain. It gets foggy, it gets clouded, okay? The astrological link is the sun. It's connected to the sun, okay? The day of the week is Sunday, and the color is yellow. The element is fire. And our sense is sight. It's about perception is a solar plexus, okay? You can probably, each of you can probably remember a time when you were young and what you saw around your family, in your environment with your friends, is what you perceived to be true, right? How they interacted, how they connected, how they laughed, what they enjoyed. You perceived that was normal. How they joked around with you, how they talked to you. You thought that was normal, right? Based on your perception, because all that you were around. So when you get older and you notice that maybe you react or you get triggered with a different environment, and they're thinking, okay, what's wrong with you? Because that's how you reacted was incorrect, or maybe it wasn't how to say proper, okay? But to you, it was proper because that's how you're raised, right? It's kind of like if you take somebody out from like a ranch and they're used to talking that way, right? And then you bring them into like the city and they're working with professionals. Do you think that kind of talk is going to be welcomed? You know, no, it's going to have to go off guard. Be like, where did this person come from? So think of those things too about perception, okay? We're going to feel a lot of the triggers on our stomach, but sometimes we're also going to feel it on our shoulders, that heaviness on our shoulders, because we're trying to become someone that we're not meant to be. So we're carrying so much fakeness, so much weight on our shoulders because we're trying to please people. Solar plexus also comes with the pleasing. We think that if we please somebody, or if we pretend to be somebody else, we'll be liked, and that will raise our confidence. But if you notice that if you do that, you still feel the same. You still feel yucky because you're actually, you know, doing with the opposite of what your soul wants you to do. That makes sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions? Okay, so your goals, it affects us here as well. So if we have goals, and let's say we're all gung-ho and the drive and we're excited, but we don't follow through, that affects our solar plexus, you guys. Not being realistic with ourselves. Why? Because we take it out on ourselves. We get so mad at ourselves, it affects us that way too. That energy house affects us. So if something doesn't, if we don't follow through with something, and because we tend to be, some of us, very perfectionist, right? Then it's going to affect our stomach. But not only that, our throat chakra. We're going to start self-sabotaging ourselves, saying, well, you know what? Why do you think that you can complete this? You didn't complete A, B, and C already. We're very good at storing that in our memory too, which is why it affects our throat, it affects our heart. If it affects our heart, you think that we're going to think that we deserve love, that we deserve more pay, that we deserve like a better life. Think of that. Okay, so if we start allowing our solar plexus to get affected, then we feel worthless. We don't value ourselves. And then we start thinking negative, and then we get into a spiral of depression. It's quick, okay? So it's so good to be able to talk to yourself good and understand that we're gonna have good days and bad days, and just accept it. Solar plexus is all about acceptance. Accept who you are right now. That's how you know that I always tell everybody, like, accept yourself right now. The good, the bad, the ugly. The only way that you're gonna be able to move forward and have a happy, you know, solar plexus and work at it slowly. But accept who you are. Nobody's perfect, right? At all. So just say, I accept myself where I am today. That's it. And then you learn to love that person right there. You can work at yourself, right? You know, chip at it, but be very careful on allowing your ego, which is that little voice in our heads that tell us that you need to do this to get ahead, or you need to maybe, you know, try to manipulate a friend to be able to help you out or something. Or sometimes you catch yourself belittling somebody else. Okay, you catch yourself, you know, talking negative about somebody else, or, you know, trying to tell somebody, you know, who they really are. Like, well, you're this, you're this, you're this, and you go on and on, or you get involved in talking bad about somebody else. Those things too, a lot have to do with our solar plexus. It's our ego. Okay. Another form of it is also when you isolate, you know, when you don't want to be around anybody. You isolate yourself because something bad happened. When something small could happen, it ruins your whole day. Your whole day, your whole week, sometimes even a month. Have you guys ever felt that way where something didn't go your way and you just had a bad day? Like everything just went to shit. Even 2 days went to shit. I know I have. I'm pretty sure each of you guys have all probably felt that, where you're like, why even try? Today's gone bad, even though it's something small, but it's that domino effect, right? Okay, so when the solar plexus doesn't have or doesn't know who it is, so if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you need in your life to succeed, if you are still back and forth between I deserve, I value myself, your solar plexus is going to get thrown off so fast. Okay, so I'm asking all a question here, and I'm going to go just round table here. What do you need today to feel successful? Luis.
A home.
Okay, good. And having a home or something that's yours will make you feel successful.
Something that's mine.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna have to stay at home too, really, because I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. Because my spiritual beliefs and stuff, I can't just practice anywhere. I feel like, so I have to have the comfort of my own space. Sure.
Okay. Good. Chase.
Probably, yeah, just kind of along the same lines, like just enough money to like pay off my bills and stuff like that, to know for myself that like I won't be in debt as much as I am now.
Good. So those are kind of things that for you to think about. Okay, what's it going to take to complete those goals, right? Have a home, you know, feel like have a home where you can feel safe, where you can feel like you can do what you want to do without having to be watched. Okay. Or being able to kind of be financially free or have more financial freedom, right? Have more of that freedom. And it comes down to having that self-freedom, doing what you want to do when you want to do it at your own time, at your own place. Okay. And that's all with the solar plexus. So being able to set those goals and to be very mindful and to be realistic about these goals. Is it going to be in 3 months, 6 months, or a year, or 2 years? Set those goals, small goals, and they're baby steps, knowing that whatever you're doing, you're moving towards that, okay, in any way you can. And making sure that you are always aware that it's okay if things don't go or if you don't meet that mark, but you've been moving forward, you're still going to meet it, okay? And that's the thing, make sure that you are focused on what you want. That'll keep your solar plex very happy, but also the balance is to make sure that you're also having fun. Okay, being playful, balancing out the fun time for you as well. It's really big as well, because virtues, we know what the virtues are, right? They help others, right? And they help ourselves. But what is your vice? Do you know what a vice is?
No.
It's like an addiction.
Mm.
All kinds of addictions. There's an addiction tree. Okay. There's anything. A vice is something that we do, you know, to please. It's like a pleasure seeker. It will help. Sometimes it's also something that we do just to distract it or to numb the pain. But it just depends. A vice can be good. It can be bad. It depends on how you use it. Okay. So kind of give you an example. Some men, their vice is to have a side woman. Okay. I can say it pops to my head. Okay. And that's considered a vice. Okay. I always felt like that's ridiculous until I met somebody, and I understand the process of thinking, not say that I say that it's good, but once you understand why they have that vice, it makes sense. Okay, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it, and I respect that you want to have a vice. That's, you know, that is your vice, right? It's having a sugar baby, put it that way. Someone making, you know, just having a side. and they can articulate very, very well, something that you're very true to. Sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's shopping. Depends on how much it affects your life. Okay. Vice could be collectors, that's a vice. If it doesn't affect your, you paying your bills and so forth, then it's considered healthy, right? Or your health. We have even substance abuse. We've got exercise. We have workaholics. Okay. We've got all kinds, and those are a vice. So anything like that. And it's having that balance. Okay. It's thinking, okay, what makes me happy? What is something that makes you happy that you're not willing to lose just to go towards your goal? Think of that. What are you not willing to compromise with to meet your goal? What is something that you have to have? Like I can say my vice could be my nails. I will always get these days done. Find a way, you know what I mean? You find something like that, right? They can say this, I will always get this. If I have this, I can move forward. Okay. And something small, and nothing like big. I'm just saying, like, this is my own personal example. I've had them done for years. I'm not gonna freaking stop. Right. So think about that. Luis, what are you thinking? Something that you're always gonna do, and it's not, and you're gonna do it as even reaching towards your own goal. What is something you're always gonna do? That you know that it's not like bad, it's not unhealthy, it's just it makes you happy.
I'd say drinking is mine for sure. Because I don't drink a lot, but I've never, since the first time I picked up a drink, I've never went a whole year without one. So if I want one every 6 months just to be able to have a comfortable time around people, because I'm not really good around people, then I'm going to do that.
Good. Really.
Yeah, I was gonna say alcohol too.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like whatever works, whatever knows that you're gonna keep doing it. As long as it doesn't affect your goal, you're good. Yeah. Chase.
Mine is I'm always gonna smoke. I'm always gonna have a joint or something. That's my how I keep going. I used to be drinking, but that's not my cup of tea no more.
Yep. So it is. It's like your cup of tea, something that makes you happy. It is like,
Yeah.
And realize that when the older we get, or we even like have different kinds of life events, sometimes that's gonna change, and it's okay as long as like this is what makes me happy, this is what kind of makes me feel good, and I'm gonna keep moving forward. Then do that, okay? Your solar plexus is about finding something that's gonna inspire you to reach those goals, okay? To make you feel confident, and give you that initiative. So if whatever you're doing is making you lazy, don't do it, okay? Moderation. But if it's making you feel good, especially like, for example, alcohol can help us loosen up, right? And sometimes be able to kind of be more free. And I can tell you when I'm having a creative block, I'll drink a beer just so I can relax. And then there you go. I receive those downloads. If I've tried running and that doesn't work, so we figure out what works for all of us. We're all a little different. But as long as like you know that about yourself and you accept it about yourself, that's the great thing. Okay. Nobody can come and tell you and say, hey, you know what? All right, you're an alcoholic. You'd be like, I don't care. I know who I am. I love who I am. Let's move forward, right? Same thing with Chase. They can say, hey, you smoke too much. You're like, and? You know what I mean? It's knowing who we are and accepting and loving ourselves for that. We don't got to explain a damn thing to anybody. We know what works, right? And that's for the whole, that whole solar plexus is for, is knowing who you are, okay? Knowing who you are and being happy with that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's think of a time when something happened and it literally just put you into depression mode. Like, woof, quick. Anybody have something in your mind that comes up that puts you into depression mode?
Yesterday, for example, my housing worker came over and presented a piece of paper from the guy I got in a domestic dispute with. He was trying to press felony charges on me that were complete lies. So that had me totally crazy and depressed all day yesterday until I found out today that the cops just like discontinued it and didn't care. But still, it was a depressing moment, or day, I should say.
Yeah, no, good, because anything that affects our survival or our ego, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then thinking, oh shit, like all that work that I just did, what was that for? Right? And where is justice served? And that's one thing too that affects our solar plexus, our definition of our needs, our survival, our justice. Okay. Luis.
I don't know. I just thinking about a lot of the past just kind of overwhelms me sometimes.
Yes.
So I know it's in the past, but just letting it go.
Yes. And that's challenging because when you sit and you think, and if your mind reverts quickly to the past, then figuring out why this still bothering me, why this still lingering, right? And you want to be set free from that, but also understanding, the situation and what you went through and honoring it, and don't just ignore it, but honor it and just say, okay, this happened to me. I understand this, but I'm not that person anymore. And you can't change what's happened. You can heal from it. And just giving yourself that thing to heal, because you don't want it to affect your body, right? Or any future relationship, okay? Because with our solar plexus, it's also about our relationship with self and our relationship with other people as well. If this is off, we're going to be questioning our relationships with people. Anything that's got 2 or more things or people is a relationship. It'll affect that, okay? You'll question your own self-worth. You'll anything small, you'll start questioning things. You'll kind of start, pedaling back. You won't feel good, because of something that happened in the past that's going to trigger you in the present. So think about that too. It's about doing that work, you know what I mean? And knowing that there's no rush, you guys, in anything that we're trying to heal or go. I'm just here trying to plant seeds, making you aware of when something's starting to bother you and you feel it, a knot in your stomach. Yeah, we need to work on that, okay? We need to work on that because it's going to trigger to the throat, to the heart, your sacral. You don't feel like sexy or wanted. Your stability, it goes down, okay? So good, thanks for sharing. Chase.
Okay, what was the exact question again?
What
I got distracted.
what makes you feel like something that has happened where it plummeted you into depression mode?
Okay, yeah. Basically for me, when I started like slipping into like the depression mode, is just like when like I'm overwhelming myself, like when I'm just focusing too much on like say, I don't know, let's say like, I don't know, maybe my coffee pot broke this morning or something, it's just like little things like that I'll think about that, and then I'll start thinking about like all my past and like, oh, I'm not as where I should be right now, or where I think I should be right now. And it's just having to like pull myself out of that.
How long does it take you to pull yourself out of it?
It depends. Like, okay, so when I would still have like a problem with drinking and everything, like it would go for like days or weeks or whatever. Because I would just be like, okay, well, I'm having a bad day, so let's start drinking at like 10 in the morning or whatever, And so if like it would just go like all day long, all night, all week. But recently, since I've been like working a lot more on that and other aspects of my life, it could be like maybe like an hour or so, or just like it depends on like the severity of it, I guess,
Right. Depends on like what's going to kind of snap you out of it and say, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for sharing. Now, power. Because that solar plexus, like it's our power wheel. What makes us feel empowered? What makes us feel powerful? Think of that for a bit, okay? What makes us feel empowered and what makes us feel powerful? Now, before I ask you guys something, think of it. Each of us have the feminine and masculine within us, okay? The energy. We all have the king and queen within us as well, okay? And if the feminine is more of the nurturing, right? The loving, the compassion, and the masculine is more of the action, the boundary, the protector, so forth. when do you guys feel empowered?
I'm gonna have to say I feel pretty. I mean, actually, I'm having a hard time being able to tell right now between powerful and empowered. But I was having a conversation with my dad the other day, and he was just totally wallowing in self pity, and I just broke it to him. I'm like, hey, dude, check it out. You've been doing this my whole life. And like, you really, if you want to feel better, you're going to have to accept it right now. You're going through a karmic cycle. And whether you want to believe that or not, you're going to have to accept it and move on, or you can wallow in it and then continue facing the same karma the rest of your life. But I mean, and it was just a really long conversation that we had. And then in the end, and my dad's not a spiritual person, but in the end, I just let him think whatever he wanted, because originally he thought I was against him. He thought I was siding with someone else. And I had to tell him, I don't care about your feelings. I care about your success. And so like I just let him be for about 20 minutes, and he gets up and he goes, oh my gosh, I just had a spiritual awakening. For some reason, even though it wasn't me necessarily, I just felt really, I don't know if empowered or powerful would be the right word to use there, but I definitely felt something, you know.
Yes. So I would say it was empowered. The conversation you had with your dad, it was an empowering conversation because it triggered something in him. Okay. So yes. So good. It's being able to kind of get your point across and finally saying what you feel, being very direct, right? And that's the empowering feeling, just being very direct. Powerful, when you're powerful over something or somebody, when you feel powerful, it's more like the alpha, okay? Being dominant, and not caring how they feel, okay? Being an alpha. I've been an alpha female for I don't know how long. It's like, I don't care. That's how it's gonna go. Right? So feeling empowered is when you realize that you did something good, you know, and you finally can stand up for yourself. You can finally speak your truth, without, you know, feeling guilty or ashamed. But yes, thank you. Luis.
I don't know. I guess the last couple of days I've been drinking a lot. My emotions got kind of on me, and last night I was like, I gotta snap out of it. Gotta get out. You know, go do something. Just leave this room.
Mm.
So that's what I did.
Okay. And when you did that, do you kind of feel now like you feel better? Like you've empowered yourself by sunbathing, by going outside in the sun, right? By doing something. A lot of times our actions can empower us.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you feel better about yourself? Or do you have clarity on what caused you to plummet, you know what I mean? And how you can kind of stay above and float. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
No. No.
I don't know. I was just kind of stuck for a minute, you know.
Yeah, because sometimes like we escape.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about that freaking room just made me.
Yeah,
like,
I can see that. Like if you're like, I need to get out of here to try to change my mood or do something to better the situation right now. I mean, I could see how you'd feel empowered in that moment where you actually did something to better it instead of just wallow in it, you know?
Right. And
Yeah.
even though like I tell you guys, you know, your home should be your sanctuary, but you also need some air. You also need some fresh air. You also need to be able to go, you know, like out. You need to get yourself out of hermit mode. Okay. Especially if our thoughts are now overpowering us. Okay. If our thoughts are overpowering us, then get your ass up quickly because it's not going to go
I need to learn that one. I'm learning it slowly, but man, not fast enough.
It will literally quickly, especially when a lot of us, we're very spiritual, okay, and we're very connected with energy. I mean, we feel it quick. And when that happens, you need to get up. And that's a time where I can say, like, grab the phone, dial your lifeline, whoever, and say, okay, help me, walk me through this, because I'm literally like, I cannot do this. You know what I mean? Because our shadow is very demonic. Okay. For us to have light and to be able to be the light, we also have we have a lot of darkness. Okay. And that darkness will creep up just because we need to kind of shed it. And if we're not ready to shed it, it can literally overpower us and it can shift us. Okay. So get out. You know what I mean? It's kind of like get out and get yourself in a whole different environment. Sometimes we're so strong that we can create like a demonic hole within our own room, in our own home. We can do it to ourselves easily. Okay. And that's what you just have to realize how strong you guys are in that aspect, that we create that vortex in our rooms. We create that vortex in our home, you guys. Each of you do that. And understanding that about yourselves will help you realize that you got to keep yourself in check. You got to process these things, write them down, talk out loud, go for a walk, get out of your home. Okay. Because we're powerful enough to shift our whole home. So you want that home to always have to feel safe, but you also need to go out and release whatever you're holding on to. You know, I'll go to nature. If it's calling me, I'm like, I need to get out of here. So I'll drive to like Loman, like Garden Valley, almost Stanley, just to get out and ground myself, because you need to be able to have that. You know, it's not good mentally for us to be home all the time, you know, or only have one escape, and that's our room.
I feel like it sucks to get out most is when I don't want to leave the house. But I realized, like today when I went on the bike ride, I realized that when I do that though, I feel like a whole different person when I'm done. So it's just a matter of being able to bite the bullet and just do it, and then know that I'll feel better in the end.
Yes, it's getting up. Like, I'm not a morning person at all, but if I know I need it, I'm gonna try to get my ass up by 7 a.m. somehow. You know what I mean? So it's like being able to just be aware of your own body and how you guys, you know, function. Because we can always tell when we're getting ready to plummet into a depression mode. We know ourselves pretty damn well, right? And if we're feeling kind of like yucky, we're feeling kind of like tired, we're feeling kind of we're self-sabotaging, we're ignoring texts or phone calls from friends, you know, things like that. What does that tell you? That you're detaching, you're disconnecting. And then when you start thinking, well, no one knows how I feel. Victim mode right there. Okay. Right. You're like, I got no one to talk to. No one understands me. No, it's not that we don't understand. You know, we all understand emotions, you know, might not be the same exact situation, you know, that we're going through. But if you say, hey, I'm feeling angry, we all know what anger feels like, right? We're feeling sad. We all know what sadness feels like. We're feeling irritated. We all know what that feels like. There's one thing we all have in common here is emotions. We know what emotional pain is. We know what emotions is, right? So, and that's a better way of learning to communicate it to people. I'm feeling this way. I feel like I'm going crazy. We all know how that feels, right? I know I do. All of us do, right? We all do. So being able to communicate it, you know, might be a good thing for you too, Luis, you know? You're not alone, and reaching, asking for help. Solar plexus, it's all about ego. What's something that you think that prevents us from asking for help? Our ego. People think asking for help is a weakness.
I felt embarrassed. Wait, I was kind of embarrassed. I didn't want to ask for help, so I figured I'd just deal with it.
And what has that done for you?
Well, I don't know yet, but
And see, and when we get to this point, it's because that's how we were when we're children. Okay. When we were children, when we needed to talk to somebody or needed emotional help or guidance, we didn't have anybody. So what did? We just dealt with it ourselves. Okay. I'm the same way, but I've learned with, you know, evolving that I do have some lifelines and I will reach out, but it's not embarrassing. It's just because we were never taught that way as kids, right? Our parents are either too busy working or they weren't even, you know, giving us attention. And so when we were hurt or we were bothered, we had to learn how to process things by ourselves. And you're not that same little kid anymore, you know? And it shouldn't be embarrassed because you're asking for help. And if you're asking the right people, the right person, it doesn't make you feel embarrassed. They're going to open up and say, okay, you know, what's going on? Talk to me. Let's process this, you know? So Is an ego as well. That makes sense, Luis?
Yeah.
Okay, Chase.
We're still on the empowering, powerful question, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I've been having that because I will forget it. So about the empowered part, not 100% sure, but the powerful part, I'm always feeling at my top when I wake up early and I'm going outside. I feel the sun shining, the birds chirping, the fresh air. That always fixes my mood. I just open my windows in my room, sit here, listen to music, totally like you got to set the vibe for the day. And that's always when I'm feeling my most powerful. The empowered part, it's kind of bad, but I feel most empowered when like other people are like telling me like, oh, like kind of like the outside validation, because I know that I'm a good person, but like when other people tell me that I'm a good person, it just hits different.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like that reward. Someone actually noticing you're being seen,
Mhm.
right? You're being seen for who you are. You're like, oh my God, finally somebody is
Yeah,
seeing what I
exactly.
see, right? Or how I feel. And sometimes like we all have different like reward systems, right? And I'm the same way. It's good to hear that once in a while. You're like, thank you, I appreciate it, because that's what's going to help us become empowered to keep moving forward, right? Like I
Definitely.
listen to like the Rocky IV soundtrack of like Rocky Balboa because I'm like, yeah, like it gets me, feeling like empowered, and then I feel powerful. Like I can conquer any challenge, right? So it's having to figure out like what works for us, and that will help us keep our solar plexus calm. Okay, because it's a fire element, which means that we can go from 0 to 100 fast. Okay, either we know who we are and we know how to help people and help ourselves, or if we start like string in it so much and overthinking, we just ruin it. It just can literally like burn into dust, and then you have to restart again, and then you're like not confident at all. If you're not confident, how does that affect you guys, you think, in your life if you lack confidence?
It affects me greatly. I have confidence in some areas way more than others, but there's definitely some areas I lack confidence altogether, and it shows.
But you're aware, right? And that's the thing, you're so much aware of the areas that you need to improve on, right?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay, so solar plexus is also about co-creation, partnering. It's about two or more things. Okay, so when you're actually like volunteering or helping people, it makes you feel good, doesn't it? You're like, wow. And especially when you get to that mindset where you're not expecting anything in return, you're doing it because it's natural. All of us here have that natural service to others, helping, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's at a grocery store. Like you just do it, and you don't understand why you do it, or people will come to you and vent about their problems, and you're just like, okay, sure, like you'll take it, right? But it's always good when you do something and not expect anything in return. That is a balanced solar plexus. Okay, if you're doing something and you're like, okay, so am I gonna get something back? Or sometimes you keep like a list of people that you've helped, and so when you need help now you're going down a list. Well, I helped you on this day, I helped you on that day, you know what I mean? That ego, right? You're like, on this day, now I'm here to claim my help back, right? And some people do that, and just being aware of it, like, don't expect, when we have expectations, it screws our solar plexus. Okay, just being grateful changes things. Okay, so I'll give you kind of an idea of how you can see with the sight of having a solar plexus. Okay, a good healthy one is that you're confident and you're capable versus being dominating and aggressive. Okay, you're knowledgeable versus being arrogant. There's a difference there, right? When you become knowledgeable, you share your wisdom and so forth. When you become arrogant, you're like, I know the answer. Why? Because I know it from this, or because I'm educated, because I'm this. Like, it's a different tone too, and the way you hold yourself as well changes. You share your power, you share your wisdom, you share your experiences versus you hoard them. Have you ever like worked with somebody that like knows, like was keeping track or keeping notes of how they could fix something, but they wouldn't share with anybody? They would keep it, and then they would go directly to the supervisor. Hey, look, here's all the ways that I've learned to improve the system, or how I can, what I've learned, and you get directly to your boss because you want to be rewarded or be seen, but you don't share the information, and you see your coworker struggling. You share it so they won't struggle, but you won't do it because they were bumped into a worker or coworker like that that's hoarding information. It's only to help anybody else but themselves. Nobody? Yes. People out there that are only just looking out for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Okay. People that are respectful, that's solar plexus healthy one. People that are authoritarian, you know, very dominant. That usually comes with either a mom or a dad was very like power hungry. Would say, you're doing it my way. Period. Do it this way, without giving you a why. How many of you guys were raised in that kind of environment where you're told to do it without telling you why?
Yes. And another thing that my dad would always tell me that would make me so mad. You ever seen Matilda?
Yes.
Do you remember that part in Matilda when he's like, I'm big and you're little and there's nothing you can do about it? He would always say that. There'd be like an actual reason, but he just wouldn't tell me just because he's like, I'm big, you're little. Ha.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Like, it's a domineering parent. And so sometimes we embrace that same type of behavior, you know, where we tell them, do this, you know, unless you decide when you want to have kids, like, I'm never going to treat my kids this way. It's almost like that. I was one of those parents. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to treat my kids the way that my mom or dad treated me, you know? And so you flip it. And so now when I tell my kids, don't do this, I tell them why, you know, this is why, this is what's going to happen, blah, blah. So they understand it's more like talking at their level and not talking over them, or, you know what I mean, to them. Does that make sense? So, and that's the same thing when it happens in the real world of living. You talk to people, you don't talk down to them. You know what I mean? When I used to work at a restaurant, if there were like short people, I would actually get down and I was kind of go down to the table and talk to those. I was eye contact with them. Even with kids, same thing. Kids shouldn't feel that they're less out because they're younger. You still want to be able to, you know, respect them and meet their needs as well. So that's when you start losing a lot of that, the programming of being dominant. We're no better than anybody else, you guys. We're all aligned, right? And once you realize that, then you'll have a happy solar plexus. You'll attract the same thing. It's respect. You respect others as you want to be respected. It's respect in both ways, right? Respect goes, it's exchange of energy. Once it's done that way, you attract that as well. If you are still needing to work on your solar plexus, you're going to attract what you feel about yourself. Mirroring. Think of that too. Okay. People can be helpful if you're good solar plexus, or you can not care. It's all about you. You're completely selfish. You don't want to help anybody. It's like you see people suffering while you're going down the road and you look at them and you're like, they're on their own. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, hey, do you need some help? So that's a way too that you can kind of check it out. We are dynamic. That means that we're always changing, and we accept that we're always changing. You guys accept that we're always going to be changing, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. We're dynamic people. We're going to evolve. Life's going to change. And we have to learn to what? Adapt, accept, and move, right? Because if not, we get stagnant. That means that our solar plexus is off when we're stagnant. Okay. Feeling empowering versus feeling, you know, being demeaning or condescending. When you're actually, you know, being demeaning or condescending towards somebody else, that means that your solar plexus is off. It's like you're trying to make yourself happy by somebody else's suffering. That makes sense? If you're trying to make yourself somebody happy by making, you know, by them suffering, and that makes you feel happy, then your solar plexus is off. You set boundaries. You're very much aware. You have a very clear sense of setting boundaries. That's another area of your solar plexus. Okay. If you don't set boundaries and you allow people to just take advantage of you, manipulate you, and use you, your solar plexus is off. Okay. You stand up for yourself and for others. Communicating clearly. You're not aggressive, You're just stern. Do you guys know the difference between being aggressive and being stern?
I know aggressive.
Don't we all?
It's very difficult to learn the difference, but yeah, I have slowly but surely figured that one out.
I'm pretty aggressive. I try to be stern. I work with intellectually disabled, so that's when I'm kind of stern.
Me
I'm
too.
never aggressive
Me
with
too.
them, but every other day, I really try to balance the two. But
It's like learning, okay? Do I respond or do I react? Okay? React is aggressive energy. It's that fire. We all have that fire in us. Like I said, that flame's fine. But if you burn it to the core, like it's gone, right? Then you can't control the aggressiveness, right? And so kind of give you like to share a story. When I was at the academy, we're doing training. We train to de-escalate ourselves in 10 seconds or less. Okay, which means that they would rise us, they would actually get us up where we're like aggressive and reactive, and then okay, you have 10 seconds, get yourself down quickly. So imagine going into these rooms where you have these paid actors poking and just pushing our buttons, and we're just getting pissed, and it's like they're in our face and we can't do anything about it.
no, I don't know how I would handle that. But
Yeah.
you have to learn though, you know?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And so we had to learn. And so they're in our face, and we knew, okay, this is just a scenario. It's going to go over. But they're poking and prodding, and they found out things that would just rattle us up good. And they're in our face. They couldn't touch us, but they're in our face, and it was just like breathing, you know what I mean? And I could feel myself getting all fluffed up. And it's like, okay, if I go hands on, I fail. Like I've got to, calm this down, and boom, like you figure out a way to count to 10, and then pretty soon it's like done. And it's like, I fucking did it. And we did it probably about a good 20 to 30 times. You can imagine. So pretty soon, like once we did that again, it just became easier, got easier and easier. So practice does help. And then now when someone does that to me, I'm just over here like, you revert to what you've learned and goes, or if someone comes to attack me, I still know the moves. I grab them, pull them down, and so it's like your brain learns that way too, okay? So be aware of that. If you practice being stern, and that just means, I call it verbal judo, right? You just say it very calmly, and words hurt a lot more if you're stern than when you're aggressive. You're aggressive and yelling at somebody, this is really phase them, because you just put on a show. Does that make sense? You put on a show, or you're stern, and your words are going to pierce. And they pierce a lot more, and they're deeper when you learn to talk sternly versus like a wild rooster. Okay? Like the Karens, I should say sometimes. Being like genuine, like really truly caring about people. Truly caring about people. Truly caring. Not because you want to put on a show for your boss. You're like, oh, hey, look, here's Rosa. She's sweet, you know what I mean? No, it's truly helping Rosa, giving her a ride to work, right? Or, taking her home. Like, it's those things that means that your solar plexus is happy. Now, it's a balance. So let's think that morning you were pissed off and you were aggressive to somebody, right? You calm down. Then later on that night, you gave Rosa a ride home, whole different person. You guys, that will even out your solar plexus. It'll go from being knotted and getting like getting sick to be like, that made me feel good. You know what I mean? And so then you won't have any of the digestive for the end of the night. So, it does balance itself out, but sometimes the universe or God will challenge you and say, hey, can they handle this again? Can they actually, do something good? Do they understand the difference, of what just happened? And if it happens, process it. Say, what can I do differently? Why did it bother me so much? Why did I get triggered? Once you figure out why you got triggered, that's work for you to do and process that. Okay, because that's some deep roots. So we shouldn't be getting triggered that often. Knowing that we're all equals, knowing just that we're equals. That we are who we are, and we all have a place, in this earth. That's probably like the best way I can probably tell you when it comes to just knowing that you're enough, knowing that you're enough where you're at right now. There's no competition. We're not comparing ourselves to, somebody else, because we all have our own journey. Okay. Those are all signs when you start accepting that your solar plexus is in good. And sometimes just self-talk and reminding yourself of that too. It's like, I'm okay. I got this, like, it's okay. I'll be fine. And that always helps the self-talking as well. Okay. The issues with our solar plexus as like the dark side of it is feeling abandoned, because it's about security and like safety for our solar plexus. So we start feeling abandoned, then that's one of those like dark sides that kind of trickles up, like things that we get triggered if we feel like alone, if we feel like we're isolated, if we feel like a victim. Those are some ways that it could happen. Or when you can't let go of a situation, it's eating you up inside, right? You can't let go of situations. Why is it eating you up inside? It could be maybe a toxic relationship. Now that could be friendship, family, lover, and you just can't let it go. That too is a dark side of your solar plexus, because you're like sometimes we think of revenge. How can I get back at them? How can I make their life a living hell, right? Or if you're like, try me, but in 5 minutes I could just, there goes your whole freaking life. You know what I mean? And that's a whole defensive and getting reactive when you can't let something go, and you're plotting of how you can get somebody back. Those are signs of your solar plexus being off, when you're already just get so hyper focused on, what they happen. Or if you were like a doormat and you were a pushover for so many years, and now you're like, you feel strong, you feel more empowered, and you're like, I'll never be someone's doormat, but then you see somebody that triggers you, or maybe that same person that you were their doormat, and now you're like, now you're my doormat. It's that dominant alpha role. And so be very, very mindful about how that could work out. Not always the best, but that's how it happens a lot. Okay, does that make sense? Get that? Okay, cool. Okay, so do you guys how has perception affected you guys in life? What we see, perception, right? So if we see something, we're gonna assume that something's happening. This is really big when it comes to relationships. OMG, okay? We might see a post on social media, and we're gonna perceive that it's about somebody else, or maybe it's about us, right? That's when perception kicks our butt. Or we're gonna start questioning the relationship status. Like, why did you post that? Or if you see someone hearting something else, why did you heart that? You know what I mean? That's perception on how, when we start thinking of things like that, it's our own insecurity. So our solar plexus will also unveil our insecurities. Okay. Now I know you probably heard the saying, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? You know what I mean? Or however that saying is, but it's not always true, you guys. It's not always true. Okay. So give me an example of a time where perception screwed you, where you're like, shit, I reacted too fast, or I opened my mouth too fast. Sideways, wherever. I don't know if you have something.
I misplaced something, and then I had a brother of mine there with me, and I was like, "You're the only one there. You took it." So I flipped out on him, and then I go back in the room and I found it. So it was like 30 seconds, and I was over him.
Yep.
So his most like he was pretty pissed. But then I went back out and apologized. He started crying. He's like, "Always me. You're always blaming me." I'm sorry, man.
So then you triggered
I'm
him
totally sorry, man.
now, yes.
Here, you can have it. It's yours.
Yep. It is.
So I placed it, but at the end I just gave it to him. I'm like, here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't want to make you cry.
Mm-hmm. Well, good, yeah, because you will feel bad after. You're like, shit, what I just do? At least you apologize, But sometimes like you don't get that. You don't get the option anymore. Sometimes you ruin something for good, And I think you just have to be mindful and, having patience and take a step back. Say, hold on, is it me that has insecurity, or am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? Or you don't ask questions. We automatically assume and we blame and we point fingers, right? Quickly, it was you. You know? Good. Chase.
I'm really bad at just seeing one thing and just taking it to a whole nother level. Like with my friends, if I get like a different like tone of text, or if they don't like talk to me like by like a certain time of some day, not like that makes you sound controlling, but like, you know, like when you talk to your friends, you have like a routine. You know, if we don't keep that same routine, then like I'll go like today Angelica hasn't talked to me at all. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, like she hates me. Like, okay, fuck that bitch. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to be her friend no more. But then she texted me, it's like, hey, and she let me know what was going on. And so after that, I was just like, okay, yeah. So I need to take a step back and stop jumping to conclusions, because that's what I'm best at.
Yep. Good example. Yep. It happens to all of us. It sure does. Ugh. Cool. Ari.
I'm sorry. What is the question?
I said,
We were talking about perception, right?
word
Okay.
has like screwed your ass. Like you're like shit.
Well, I was actually just telling my friend about how he was like, there was only one person in the room. It had to have been him. Well, earlier he did the same thing, so I kind of had to make fun of him a little bit. But for me, you know, honestly, there's a lot of things that I don't know if it's just like I could be anywhere and see something that reminds me of me. And if I want to take offense to it in that moment, I can. Or if I don't want to take offense to it, I can. But like a post on Facebook. I mean, it doesn't need to pertain to me. But I guess, I don't know, perception on that, like you were saying with the hearts and relationships, that'll set you up. That'll just make you mad as hell for no reason. But other than that, I don't really know.
No, that's good, because it's putting out our own insecurities. Okay.
Yeah, for real. So I was gonna bring this up. So I went through like 3 years of my life where I was stuck in like this. I call it a spiritual awakening, but psychologically it was like a psychosis, right? Well, everywhere I went, I thought people were talking about me. And so when I could change that and realize that it was more of like a spiritual thing than it was an actual person talking about me thing, because originally that's what I thought it was. Because I mean, I was mental, you know? But when I realized it was a spiritual thing, and I realized the spiritual world was trying to tell me something, it became beautiful and not, I wasn't like self-conscious and, you know, embarrassed. And I don't know the other word I'm trying to come up with, but do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, so good. It's like you can get very defensive, you know, at times too, or like I click on your shoulder, you know what I mean? When like your name's always being said, or you're like, okay, what's going on here, you know, or you know that you're that hot topic, you know, for some reason you're like, why does my name gotta be in everybody's mouth sometimes too? But like it could be our mind too, that perception thing, right? But you figured out, okay, it was something else, but you didn't know. So it was
like songs on the radio that had nothing to do with me. But I mean, I was so crazy in that moment. I mean, I was on drugs and all sorts of stuff, but when I changed my perception to realize that it wasn't that, it was in fact like, if I really thought it was talking to me, it probably was, but it wasn't personal. It was the spiritual world telling me, hey, this is what you need to know right now. And truly that has changed my entire life. Good.
Now that you shifted and you understand. Okay, now you'll embrace it and take it and not be like, what the hell?
Yep. Take it as advice, not what do you call that? Insult.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
That makes a difference. It really does.
Oh, big time.
We feel like we're insulted. It's like we get in defensive mode, right? And then we're ready to attack. And it's like, why? So it's having to learn about how perception can really screw like with our mind, you know?
Yeah.
Can I give you an example? Like my friend and I were at McDonald's and we're in the drive-thru, and the kid was really short. Was like, hey, you know, what do you want to order? I'm like, we're telling them, and he was short. I'm like, oh, you know, why are you so short with this? Well, it's breakfast morning, whatever. You know, the kid's in a hurry. We get to first window, give him our money, and he's all like, you know, asking for a change, but short. I'm like, can't you be nice? Like, be sweet, you know? He's like, no, nothing, whatever. Second window, this kid has got this, and here's me, like stereotyping here. He's got this like gray sweatshirt, and he's got like a cap And then he gives us our food, and it's like, well, he gives our drinks. We're like, where's our food? And he's like, oh, here. And then I'm like, is it all in there? And he's like, well, check. And I'm like, what do you mean check? Like, he like gets himself out, right? Brought himself out. And I was like, oh, you're puffing. Why are you puffing? And then I'm thinking, okay, these kids are coming from now the juvenile detention center. That's different. You know what I mean? And so you start getting that, even like the poor kid was just, that's all he knew, right? He only knew, he only knows how to respond that way. And we responded like laughing, like, are you serious? Like, you're going to puff out at us right now? Like, we're way too old. You know what I mean? But our perception is automatically like, he's just being rude, you know what I mean? But no, that's just how he was, like, that's how he's programmed. We're all programmed differently, but you can assume the words just based on their tone and their body language, you know? And so that's what with perception, it does that. Or when you're lacking, you're having a very hard time, and maybe you see your ex or something, and you hear about them talking to somebody else, and then it starts hurting you. You know what I mean? Because like you're perceiving, well, things are happening, or maybe you're in a relationship, however it may be. Perception can kick our butt, so we can assume that that person is just like our last person, right? That kicks in the butt too. Perception, that it repeats itself. Friendship. So just think about that. Perception. It's based on our own personal experiences, you guys. Plain and simple. Okay. So be very like cautious and take a step back before we quickly jump the gun and become reactive, because we can't take back our words. Words are the most hurtful thing that we can ever say to somebody. You know what I mean? Yes, physical abuse is something, but verbal, mental abuse, emotional abuse, that is deep. That's deep trauma. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Is there anything that you've noticed, you guys, from you, how you were raised, that it's affected you in the present day? Solar plexus is about our past, so too. Chase.
I cannot communicate my emotions at all. That has definitely, like, growing up, me and my mom or dad or whoever would get in arguments, they were the kind of people that after the arguments they would just drop the whole thing. No apologies, no, like, going back to it and like fixing it over. It was just over and done with. And so that's kind of how I handle a lot of like my adult life arguments and interactions with my friends and stuff. Like if we get in an argument or whatever, I'll either get really like explode, and have a whole anger freak out, or I just will be like, never happened. It was just done and over with, which I realize that's not like a healthy way to like go about stuff. I definitely prefer talking it out, but like that's just like how I was programmed, to just get over with, done. Just yeah.
It feels uncomfortable, huh? Because you're like, this is so bad.
Yeah, like same. Okay, this is really odd. I guess it kind of is on topic. Same with like affection and stuff like that. Like I don't like other people like trying to give me hugs or like touching me or stuff. Like I'm just not that kind of person. And that's how it was with my family. Like my dad, he never said I loved you until like I moved out, and like he just wasn't a very affectionate, household.
No.
And so it definitely has had a huge influence on the way I've grown up.
Oh yeah, and it affects like your confidence, except like your perception, thinking that that's normal, right?
Yeah.
But other people look at you like, are you okay?
Yeah, literally.
You know what I mean? Because I was raised the same way. Like I think my mom and I told her I love you maybe 3 or 4 times. Now as an adult, we never hugged, never hugged. That was my dad. So it's kind of like when someone's hugging, you're like, okay, that's okay. You're my bubble.
Awkward side hugs.
Yeah, it's like, coach hug, here we go.
Yeah.
And
hey, bud.
Yes, yeah, you know what I mean? Until like you get older, you realize like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Because then like then you have to learn how to receive love, right? And how to give love, because based on how we're raised, it affects us. Are we confident enough to receive love, or is it going to feel uncomfortable? Are we confident enough to give love, and how we think that love should be given? A high five, or we would wrestle. We would wrestle at home. So I'm thinking, okay, wrestling is a great way to freaking show my love.
Huh. I love you. Should I beat your ass right now? Or?
I mean, it wasn't that physical, but like we would wrestle. It was like WWF, like here we go, eat whatever. And that's how we showed it. And even now, like we'll punch, like, hey dad, and I'll punch him, or I'll scare the crap out of him. And that's love. So it's like being able to realize that some of the things, like as a kid, it affects us in the present. And we have to learn to realize that how to heal and how to get out of our uncomfortableness and gain that confidence to figure out, how do you want to be loved, right? How do you want to be felt valued? Our value is also with our solar plexus. How do you want to feel worthy? Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think just for you guys, like I said, just, think about some of those things. I've planted a lot of seed in your guys' head tonight. So you're going to either be processing them, you're going to become more aware, or you might be dreaming tonight of some of these situations, and it's going to be with you for the next week. Okay. So a lot of these things are going to surface, and you're going to figure out, okay, what is it? What is it that I need to feel happy, to feel successful, and what do I need to move forward in my endeavors, whatever it is, whether it's to evolve, to be like a master healer of yourself, so you can heal yourself, whatever it is. I just planted those seeds so you can start working towards that. Okay, so whatever doesn't belong in your life right now, it's walking away from you within the next 2 weeks. Okay, whatever doesn't resonate or is not part of your aligned life is walking away from within the next 2 weeks. Behaviors, thought processes, they're walking away within the next 2 weeks. So that's a good thing. It'll shift you a bit, and it's going to be quick. We need to get that solar plexus under control. Okay, not perfect, just under control, so you can work on the things that each of you are meant to align yourself with. Okay. You guys have questions regarding class, regarding what we talked about?
Do you think you can send it to me as well? Sorry,
No, it's fine.
so that I have it.
Yeah. Now I'll go ahead and post it again in that little group that we have, so you can, anybody has access to it again. And you'll be able to rewatch it if you need to. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, you guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys in class next week.
Thank
you.
you.
You have a good night too. See
Okay,
ya.
bye guys. See ya.
Bye.